Right, hello. Hope you are all well. Thank you for joining me today on episode number 7 of the Reptichat podcast. Apologies for missing an episode last week. I just apparently can't read a calendar, so I got my dates a bit mixed up. But on the plus side for you guys, it means we've got an episode today, and there's an episode next weekend as well, and then we'll be back on track for every other weekend. Apologies if I'm a bit groggy today. I'm feeling a bit under the weather. I've got a bit of a sore throat. But I'll try and refrain from sniffing and coughing down the microphone because nobody wants to hear that. What's going on with me? Not a lot, really. Got 3 royals that have just gone into pre-lay shed, so I'll have some eggs soon, hopefully. But apart from that, there's not a lot going on here at the moment. Lots of waiting. But that doesn't matter because we've got the podcast to keep us going, and it's all good fun. So before we go on today's guest as well, I just want to remind you guys about the Exotic Keeper magazine. If you're watching, it's on screen now. You guys can win a 12-month digital subscription. All you need to do is drop a comment on the video below with an animal fact, or pop a animal fact on my Instagram story when asked, and the winner from last week will be announced towards the end of the episode today. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a brilliant magazine. So anyway, I've been following today's guests for a while, and it's something I'm quite interested in, to be honest. If you've been following the podcast from the beginning, you'll know, although it's called Reptichat, we like to cover everything exotic, not just reptiles. And I think when I think exotic pet, there isn't anything I think that's more exotic than a parrot, really. So without further ado, let's add Nimal and Claire into the chat, and they are better known as Mikey the Macaw on Instagram, or Mikey and Mia as well. So hello.
How's it going, Ben? How are you? Thanks for having us.
I'm very excited to have you both on. How are you both?
We're good, man. We're good. We're
Awesome.
This is our first one of these things, so we're you're popping the cherry here. So yeah,
that's brilliant. That's awesome. So I'm still, like I said, it's episode 7, so we're still quite new here. So don't worry if things don't go 100% perfect. It's all part of the fun. But the goal is to sort of educate me a bit, educate everyone that's listening a little bit, and just have a nice bit of a chat as well, and build a sort of friendship as we go along.
Cool. Sounds good, man.
So if you haven't listened before, I like to start the podcast with a section I like to call Get to Know. It's basically some quick fire questions, breaks the ice a little bit, and just helps me get to know you a little bit better and the listeners as well. They're all really straightforward questions as well. So I'll ask you both, and if you could both just give your answers, like I said, as quick as you can. We don't need like a big explanation because we'll get into that later. All right, and I have got notes. So I'm going to read off them because I'm going to forget otherwise.
Cool.
So if you're ready, we'll get started. So first pet.
First pet for me would have been a chicken when I was probably about 5 years old, named Fluffy.
Cool.
First pet for me, hamster named Sparky.
Nice. Current pets.
Oh, 2 monsters. 2 lovely birds, blue and gold macaws, Mikey and Mia.
Fantastic. Money, space, time, time commitment has no object. An animal you'd like to keep if you had the opportunity.
Ooh, a giraffe.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, giraffes are cool.
Yeah, giraffes are so cool.
I wouldn't want an elephant.
I'd have an elephant.
I actually don't know. Can I pass this one?
Yeah, you can pass. You can pass. That's fine. It's a difficult one to put you on the spot.
Well, definitely not another bird.
Yeah.
So my next one is one pet you would never own.
Ooh, a snake.
Yeah,
I like that. That's good because most of the nice I guess I have on just keep snakes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's probably a strange answer for you.
A tarantula.
Or like a crocodile or something. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I really want a crocodile.
That's cool, everything that you love.
Right now, moving away from animals slightly, it's just this or that. So again, nice and quick. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Sun or snow?
Sun.
Snow.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Yeah.
Appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Night in or night out?
Night in.
Out.
An early bird, night owl, or permanently exhausted pigeon?
Early bird.
Oh. I think I'm more the early bird now.
Yeah.
Maybe I've learned to grow up a bit, I think.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
Cool. So that's that
just-
section done. And like I said, it just breaks the ice a little bit. It's a little bit of fun.
Cool.
So now let's get into it properly. So for those people that are listening that don't know, tell us a bit about yourselves. And Mike and Mia as well. Tell us sort of how it started, when it started, and yeah, just a brief history.
Cool. I can do this in about a minute and a half. Basically, October 2016, Claire over here has always been a massive fan of Macaws. She's one of them her whole life. And one day we kind of woke up and she's like, I need to get a Macaw. Very, very kind of impulsive. We didn't really know a whole lot. We didn't really know what we were doing.
Thing we did.
Yeah, very, very silly.
Yeah.
Definitely don't recommend doing what we did. She always wanted to rehome one because the problem with these birds, they get rehomed like absolute crazy because a lot of people, well, I'd say a majority of people that have them can't really care for them. So we went to visit this one bird. His name was Mikey. He was in a cage. The guy who was selling him had like 3 kids, other birds, all this kind of stuff, and he just couldn't deal with them. The noise was insane.
Pretty much begged us to take
Yeah.
him. He was like, please.
We saw him
take this
and
bird.
we said no first. We're like, nope,
We were
let's
too
just carry on
scared.
with our lives. And then we went home and then he called us. He's like, look, I'll drop the price. I'll drop him off now. And we're like, you know what? I think we could maybe, if we do our best, try and give him a better life than what this guy is. So we took
a lot
him
more
in.
intimidating when you actually see them in real life. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do that.
We didn't touch
They're
him.
not small either, are they? They're not small birds.
We didn't touch him for like 3 days. We were too scared to hold him. And then one night I had a few friends around. I had a few beers with me and I was like, I think I can pick him up. And then we kind of bonded. And then we messed up so much at the start because we had no idea what we were doing, feeding him absolute crap and just, doing everything wrong. And then we started uploading just videos, just not for any particular reason. Just I made one video just to send to my grandparents in New Zealand, just to show them we had a bird and I narrated it and stuff. And I put it back then. For me, YouTube was just a way to, you upload something, you send it to your friends, and then a lot of people picked up on this video, and then it started getting tens of thousands of views and hundreds of thousands of views, and everyone's like, we want to see more. So I was like, all right, cool. And then we started getting into making fun content, little music videos and stuff. We're both musos. And then I think it was 18 months after we got Mikey, we got an email from someone saying, Mia's in this.
Please have a look at this bird.
Check out this bird. She's not too far. She's in London. Wings clipped, tiny cage. Her owners were basically a couple who wanted her as an ornament in a way. So we saw her that night and couldn't say no. So we took her home, 10 months of training with her. And then after the social media kind of took off, I guess, I don't know if that's what you'd say, but we got in touch with a lot of professional trainers, a lot of other people who had way more knowledge than started helping us out, which was really, really cool. And we started getting into free flight and proper diet and proper care and actually learning how to look after these birds and what they deserve. And now we're kind of doing our best to educate as well as entertain and kind of put across the message that these birds weren't really meant to be pets. They're an absolute mission and a half to kind of care for your average person. And
let alone 2 of us.
That is why they get rehomed a lot. So we always push, adopting over shopping, always rehome over buying babies. It is getting worse and worse to a point these birds are getting put down at the moment.
It's worse now than it's ever been.
And now we have a bird food company off that now, which is growing and growing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I will touch on that later as well. So we'll stick sort of at the beginning. So obviously you woke up one morning and said, I really want a macaw. Before waking up and saying I really want a macaw, had you had any previous experience with a parrot at all? Like even like you've been to a zoo and you've seen one?
Oh yes, but I've never handled a bird. Even the extensive knowledge that I thought I had, nowhere near what it's like reading a baby book and then having a baby. It's the same concept. It's like nothing prepares you for having a bird. It's an insane amount of work, and
they're a lifetime commitment as well, aren't they? From what I understand,
60 to 80 year.
But learning their personalities as well is really hard. Something that we would do with each other, or like even just smiling at each other to show that you're loving, or to a bird, showing your teeth can be really scary. So it's like all these weird things that we had to learn, and like not to freak these birds out when you first have them in your home. Not to
overstimulate them.
And not to overexcite them, and all these things that you have to learn.
Their heartbeats is fast. They're fast enough. They don't need more stimulation.
Animals,
But
lots to learn.
Yeah. So, can we touch on the basic care? Like I know there's basic care, and then there's like going above and beyond and giving them 100% like incredible places. But obviously, we don't really like bird cages. Are, from what I understand, rubbish, awful things. Generally, there's not even enough room for them to open their wings. So, if someone said to you, like, I've got my heart set on getting, let's say, I don't know if it varies from parrot species to parrot species, but for the sake of the conversation, we'll say macaw specifically. So someone comes up to you and says, I really want a macaw. I think I've done my research, but can you run through what you would suggest for me? So what would be like the go on.
So what I'd suggest, and we that exact question I get thrown in my inbox
Daily,
every day, every 2 days or so. And the thing is, like, for me, I think, you know, the ultimate, like birds need to be stimulated, they need to forage, they need to think, they need to do so much stuff. And flight for us is a huge thing. I know for a fact I don't think it's every bird shouldn't be able to free fly. I think it's down to the owner as well. The human, the lifestyle of free flight is basic care. It's a lot different. So I'm not going to get into that. Everyone should actually free fly at all. What I think basic care should be, I think an aviary is an absolute must. An area where there is multiple branches, multiple perches, room for that bird to actually open their wings, flap, maybe even jump from perch to perch, which a lot of people can't even give. So enough room. I mean, I think if you put it into, you know, if you're in a small contained environment for that long, you know,
think what would you want for your child, also, for instance, or yourself, and diet, kind of go that way.
Diet is a massive thing to look into. I mean, a lot of pet shops just sell these horrible bags of seeds, or just you know, a bag of pellets. I mean, it's basically just, you know, this tiny little dry cube for the rest of their life. So huge variety. And stimulation, like, I think our guys sometimes, our guys love foraging more than they do flying. Foraging wheels, foraging toys, sock toys. Really working for their food.
Working for food is what they love.
They're such intelligent birds, aren't they? So you really have to stimulate their brains.
Their brains are designed to find food.
Even basic care for them is
intense.
It's really hard because you're thinking about all these different elements. So you're thinking about providing foraging and stimulation, you're thinking about space and diet, which will have an effect on their character and their personality, because if they're overstimulated, you know, like I said, we were saying their heart rate is so fast already. If they're having heaps of fruit or seed, or that, it's going to have a massive effect on how they're behaving. And
sunlight. I think every bird deserves sunlight. A lot of people say my bird's never seen the sun, or, you know, been outside, and I think there is so many options without even taking your bird out to fly. There's harnesses, there's netted gardens, there's even just taking them out in a carry cage for 20 minutes a day.
Just so they have a bit of natural sunlight,
natural vitamin D. I mean, imagine never seeing the sun, you know.
Exactly. It's not nice. So talking of aviaries and netted gardens, I've been following you guys for ages on Instagram, and on your story I see it a lot. You're from the top of your house to the back of your garden is one massive net, which is incredible. Like, you've got branches, the birds are getting hosed down and having a good bath. How would you even go about doing that? Like, is that something that you've done yourself? Are there companies that can do that for you? Or
wish there was a company that
we're trying to find someone who actually professionally does it, so we can tidy ours up, because it's a mission.
It's hard work.
There's a couple of ways to do it. I mean, you know, you staple it to the fence, and then we pulled ours out with fishing line over the top of the house to get at the height and stuff like that. It was the best solution we found, and it's so affordable. Like, our garden's so cheap. Our garden's 10 by 11 meters, and we bought 13 by 14 meters of net for about 70 quid.
60.
Which is nothing, really, is it?
I mean, compared to what we've got of it,
it's really good.
It is. If anyone is listening and they're like, oh wow, I'll just go do that. It's not macaw proof at all. But we've found our guys don't care to chew it.
Some birds do, so be careful and do it properly.
We had one bird. We've had this exact netting for
years,
6 years probably, and we had one bird around once, and it just chewed a huge hole in it and jumped straight out.
Because you have other people bring their birds around to you as well, didn't you?
We throw little bird parties. We have friends with macaws, they come around and stuff like that. We, you know, on the odd occasion we might look after a friend's bird. We are not bird sitters, if anyone's out there thinking that. But
strictly friends only.
But no, it's such a great thing. And, you know, there's other options, like there's stainless steel wire mesh and stuff you can get. It's a whole lot more expensive, and it's a whole lot I think it's
a lot safer, I feel, though.
It's safer, but I feel you feel a bit enclosed. I feel the higher you get the net, the more you don't feel enclosed. We once had a net which was about that far above your head, and you kind of feel like you're in a cage. With what we've done now, because we're pulling it over the house, it just feels like there's nothing there.
Our neighbours weren't too happy when they saw that.
I was going to ask about the neighbours. How do the neighbours? What are they? Are they all right?
So they're lovely. We're very lucky. Yeah, to be honest.
The thing is that's a huge part of having these birds, having neighbours that'll tolerate not just the noise, but if you're going to do something like we do, I know it doesn't look great. I've retrieved our birds from our neighbour's garden, and I look in and I'm like, oh, that actually looks terrible for them. But we want to make it better. We really do. We're just trying to find a way to make it better. We're lucky they are really, really, really nice all around us, and they enjoy the birds.
So lovely.
As long as there's not too many out there screaming all at once, they're actually pretty chill.
Well, that's fair enough as well. I'd say the same thing about children, to be honest. And then talking of like, you've got your perches and stuff in the garden, but also in your house as well. I don't know if it's your living room, but from what I can tell from Instagram, it looks like you've got perches and possibly some perspex on the wall as well. Is that right? So talk us through that. What's the idea?
Perches, I mean, I think after years and years and years of trying to set up a place for birds, we've kind of now, like, I think this is the best setup we've ever had. So basically, a lot of people have tripods or Java stands, which is a huge big base, and the amount of space they do take up in your lounge is just crazy. And trying to sweep around a perch it's just a mess.
Yeah, and you're just moving things. So it's like easier to have it off the floor.
If we can float the perches, we can still sweep under everything perfectly fine. It doesn't take up any floor space. And so we just screwed these massive big tree branches that we got. Bird Safe would definitely look into that as well. Into the corner of our lounge, and then mounted them off each other. Took a while to kind of get a way for them to kind of mount. We had a good mate of ours helping as well. And then the perspex is basically because after years of birds eating and then shaking their beak, especially if it's something like broccoli, when broccoli stains onto clean white walls, it's absolutely not coming off. Beetroot.
That's the one.
Beetroot.
I can't imagine broccoli staining. Beetroot makes much more sense. Yeah.
If they do a really runny poop from a height, it's going to hit the ground and splatter onto the walls. So we got the perspex there, which is super easy to clean.
Wipe it clean, and it's much easier.
These birds aren't hard to look after if you do it smart. I think if you're your standard person, you bought a bird, you put them in a cage, and you got perches everywhere, it's just going to be complete mess and chaos and just. And we went the first 3 months at Mikey. Claire nearly gave up. She had a huge breakdown. She's like, I can't do this. What am I doing?
He hated me. He absolutely. So
all I'm doing is cleaning.
Into a room, and like the thing is, it's not just that. Like I couldn't walk into a room without him trying to attack me because he was so bonded with Namal. He didn't want me anywhere near the two of them. And I said to Namal, I was like, how are we going to live if this bird hates me this much? And then one day he landed on my shoulder, and then we just became friends. And I called Namal, and I was like, it's happened, we're friends. And I was so moved that he chose to come to me, because I think with birds, I read, like, you've got to just carry on with your day and let them come to you. You can't
force yourself on them.
Yeah, it's like cats. They're very similar to cats, but you can't. They're very independent creatures, and they need to inquire and figure you out before they'll come anywhere near you. So and then one day it happened, and then he's been absolutely fine with me, and he does love us both. I feel he does now, but the beginning was a real test.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's that's something I hadn't even thought of really.
Because they're one-person birds normally. They
usually bond to one, sometimes two, but
But Mikey loves us all. I feel like he loves me.
He's a very social bird. Yeah,
that's good. And so, how did you find after having Mikey for X amount of years, introducing Mia? Did they get on straight away? Are they quite social with each other, or was it a slow process?
We kept them completely separate for a full month, like cows separately and everything. Because when they were together, Mikey would just try and attack Mia, and poor Mia at that stage was very skinny. She couldn't even fly. She couldn't fight back. So we even split our time. So Claire would look after Mia, I looked after Mikey. After a month, we started slowly getting them together, and then they started sharing the same aviary. But they just kind of acted like the other bird didn't exist. They never bonded. They never.
Although Mia wanted to be friends with Mikey.
Mia would walk up to Mikey. Mikey would just bite her.
But I feel like Mikey also is a bird that doesn't understand other birds. Yeah. So he didn't understand what she was trying to do, and
what is this bird doing?
Yeah, because I think Mikey thinks he's a human in his head.
I don't think it was until she was flying, which was maybe 10 months or so, and then they could fly together. Yeah. And then he was like, "Oh wow, she's a bird
she's
like me."
Like me. Yeah.
No,
I think Mikey realized he was a bird.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, that's what I am.
And then they started breeding and feeding each other,
Yeah.
and now they're just lovers to another level. So
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's
and
really
they're so bonded. I
Yeah.
mean, we had our friend's bird Dory over, and she was getting a bit flirty with Mikey, and Mikey just looked like he was suddenly riddled with guilt and ran to Mia and like started feeding Mia and like looking at us like like he did something wrong.
I've done nothing wrong.
But it was so funny to watch that kind of behavior, and they're so fascinating when they do
They seem to be very affectionate towards each other as well.
They are.
Yeah.
Especially with like the pruning and stuff. It always looks like they really like properly love each other.
Yeah.
They really look after. Well, I think it's Mia looks after Mikey more.
Not so much now. I feel they do both. Maybe Mikey. Yeah, still Mia.
I think it's still heavily Mia.
Yeah.
Mikey's
made more of an effort recently.
He's more of the receiver. He'll sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I feel bad for Mia in that sense.
But he's been a lot better recently because he used to preen her for a few seconds and then he was done. It's just to kind of get her to preen him, but he preens her now properly. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. Just going back quickly, just popped into my head. You said when you first looked at Mia, she had her wings clipped. I presume now as she does fly that the feathers grow back. Is that like a cycle? How does that work?
So wing feathers molt every 10 to 12 months, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a lot longer.
I don't know if that's a fact, but on an average. So they clip all the flight feathers so they can't fly or they can't get lift. I mean, they can kind of panic fly and crash into the ground, hit into walls. I honestly think I think it is dangerous, way more dangerous.
It's more dangerous because they can still fly, but they can't
control
balance.
their flight.
Okay.
But then each flight feather that dropped over those 10 months, a brand new fresh one grew, and it was getting so exciting. And I think we got her in September. She was fully clipped by, I think it was December. She did her very first small recall, maybe 2 meters, just flying, struggling because she was still missing half her feathers. Yeah. And then she was free flying by August. August 7th, I think it was
near her birthday.
So she still wasn't fully feathered then. She was missing about 3 feathers by the time she was actually free flying, so which isn't too bad. They go back every year. So as you can imagine, we've had Mikey 7 years now, so we have a whole bunch of feathers.
And do they sort of go through color changes each time they molt their feathers? Do they change slightly, or is it pretty much this is what they look like?
They come back exactly the same. Like Mikey has one feather that has a slight discolor on it, and it always grows back with the same slight discolor. It's really
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. I've always
unless there's any kind of issues when it comes to if a bird's got feather bruising or a bad diet, a lot of kind of black marks, or if they're stressed, they might have stress bars. By the next molt, they could be 100% healthy, and feathers would be great. So
so stress was something I've read about before. So when I was younger, I looked into African grey parrots because I knew a bloke that had one, and I'd been around a few times. I was like, "Oh, this is really cool. I want one." I did some research, changed my mind, decided I didn't want one because it sounds. I'd read that you have to spend like 9+ hours a day with them if they're living on their own. Otherwise, they get stressed and pull all their feathers out. Is that true? Is that something that can happen?
These birds, they're extremely social. They're
flock birds.
No, I mean, no one wants to sit in a room by themselves. In general, like if a human did that, they'd be depressed pretty quickly. I'd
also because they're so intelligent as well. It's the mutilation is often out of boredom, or not necessarily because they're lonely, but it's just because they're bored and they don't know what to do.
Plucking is a thing that only ever happens in captivity, so it's something we have done as humans. It's never ever been known to happen in the wild because birds are consistently stimulated, they're consistently getting fresh air and showers, and they have flight.
There is the exception. It could be a health issue. There are sometimes reasons
no, it's definitely not just boredom. The list that plucking,
it's huge.
It could be massive. It could be lack of showers, it could be a skin irritation, it could be it could be depression, boredom, lack of stimulation, it could be an allergy, it could be something within. It could be
but majority of it is normally just
African greys, especially. You see them plucked so much, and I think people get them because they are such great talkers. That's what I hate. Everyone's like, "Oh, does your bird talk?" That's one question I absolutely hate more than anything. But you expect
I'm just gonna cross that question off my list.
You get it, but I think people like, I want that bird because it talks, and then they get an African grey
as a reason to buy,
and then they say a few words to it, and they lock it up in a cage. And these birds have minds, and they need to do stuff, and if they're literally sitting behind bars, they are going to get depressed. That's just the reality of it. They need stuff to do.
I suppose you could compare it to putting a dog in a crate. Like they need a walk, they need the love.
The whole day and night is. Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, the dog will go nuts.
Do reptiles don't have any of these problems, do they?
Reptiles just like their own company. They're quite happy being left alone. You feed them and then you give them fresh water and they're like, right, that's fine. Don't come near me. I've had enough.
Yeah.
You get the odd one that might seem like it wants a little bit more affection, but I'd say 99% of them are more than happy just being fed, watered and left alone. They're a bit like plants.
Yeah. I've heard that they're super easy in a way.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, there's a lot to learn about reptiles, but I think like more with like the lighting and heat and stuff like that. But once you get that sorted, they're very, very simple. I quite often compare them to like tropical fish, where it's more of a case of you've got your fish. Once they're set up, you feed them and then you look at them. Like you don't pick them up, you don't pet them. Like it's that sort of comparison I find is probably the easiest way. If someone goes, "Oh, why have you got reptiles?" It's the same sort of thing. So free flying is something I really wanted to go into because the concept to me is terrifying. Like I've got 3 dogs and I don't like letting them off lead sometimes. So how do you go from like practicing recall at home to, well, first of all, what is free flying for those that don't know? And then how do you get train a bird to free fly? And how are you comfortable going out and free flying your birds?
So free flight is basically letting your bird off outdoors unrestrained, and it comes back to you. So basically, there is a lot that goes behind it. It took us 4.5 months at Mikey. It took us 10 months at Mia. Some people can do it in 2 months. Some people can do it quicker. It varies.
Sometimes it takes years.
Different people, different birds, different locations. So
age and
in a nutshell, I mean, and there's never a nutshell because every bird is different. And there are professional trainers who do this all over the world, and they teach people and they really help people. But it's obviously there is a lot of recall. So firstly, actually, it's getting diet on point. Once they're on a very, very, very healthy diet, you can reserve stuff like their absolute favorite food for treats. Yes. So we have, a whole variety of nuts, which we reserve for treats, tiny, tiny, tiny little bits. And they only get them when they're training. So if they're doing big wings or high five or recalls or step ups, anything like that, they're getting it. The rest of the days are, fresh fruit and veg, healthy flowers, herbs, seeds, the lot. So they love these treats, like a dog loves dog treats kind of thing. So you'll start with just a tiny indoor recall, then slightly take a step back, then slightly another step back until you're at a stage where you can do, a 10-meter hallway or even inside like a school hall. We used a self-storage unit, self-storage hallway, which was like 30 meters long. One of us would run down.
He really enjoyed it.
It's a great way to get their energy and build up the muscle
and the stamina.
The stamina, because if a bird doesn't fly, it's like a human who doesn't run.
Untrained,
you asked me to run for more than 5 minutes, you wouldn't get that. But and then it's desensitization is a huge part of it. Then that's a huge reason a lot of birds go missing because they're not used to or desensitized to anything of the outdoors. You have So but with the outdoors, first you got planes, you got wind, you got different weather conditions, you got other birds, you got motorbikes, skateboarders, cars, the whole lot. And one of these things is something brand new, and birds spook easy. So the moment something is crazy and new for them, they're off. And without the skill to come back, they're off up a tree overnight kind of thing. So
and without the skill to descend down, they can't.
Because a lot of birds that do live in a home, they don't know how to fly down.
They normally learn that when they're young, but obviously in captivity, they don't.
So that's a big thing. And then
naturally,
diet, recall, desensitization, positive reinforcement. And then when they're outside, now this is it's a 50-50 split on how you want to do this. A lot of people attach a very, very thin elastic line just for the first few recalls until the bird learns to take off, do a loop and come back, treat kind of thing. So it learns to turn.
Sleeping.
A lot of people also don't. They have trust in the training. They have trust in what they've done.
Big enough as well.
If you have a big enough space, there's not a whole lot of places like this in the UK with a lot of space, but way out in the US, all those trainers, none of them use harnesses or lines because you have a giant desert that goes for hundreds of miles without anything in sight. So you're sweet in that sense. But once they get the hang of it, birds they're flock animals by nature, so they usually live in huge flocks. They don't want to leave you. Anyone who said my bird flew away, they never wanted to fly away. They took off and then they didn't have the skills to get back because they seen all these things that freaked them out, and then wind,
and then they're exhausted once they're in the tree because they've never flown that far before, or or they just look down and they're like, I can't do this.
It's terrifying to get down. So And descent training is hard. Teaching a bird to fly, because a lot of people, they'll put them on a door frame and then sit on the ground. And what's that? 2 meters.
7 foot if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. And the difference, and that's all we can do in our homes. The difference between that and a 50-foot tree is,
although we have friends that have a really long, big perch, which they can put I think 3 or 4 meters high.
Yeah.
And I think even 5 meters it goes up.
It's massive.
And they took their birds out and bit by bit made it higher and higher. And that was such a good way to train. So if you can build a massively long perch that can shoot up, it helps a lot.
There is always ways.
There's
always risk as well. I'm not saying once you've got this, you're 100% solid. I'd say once a year on average, Mikey will sleep outside. We're totally fine. We'll sleep in a tree. And a lot of it's usually our fault flying too close to sunset in the summer because we're having so much fun because it's still warm. Yeah. And once he's done, he'll go in the tree. If it's close to sunset, he'll sleep there.
I don't mind if it's summer.
If it's summer, I don't mind.
He has asthma, so I like him sleeping outside sometimes because it gets rid of all the dust and it's good for him because the smallest bit of dust just.
Sorry, did you say he's got asthma?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really right. Okay. I didn't know that was a thing. That
nicer and everything.
It's a thing. Yeah.
It's a thing. Birds are so delicate because they're not born and they're not meant to be living in a home, and it's the unnatural heat and sometimes the air in the house is too dry and it could be the small or their own dust, their own dander he's allergic to it
from preening and stuff.
So I suppose naturally they're where are they from, like that Amazon rainforest sort of wetland area, so it's very very humid, it rains every day.
But also they're preening outside, so all the dust is normally just to be gone.
It's not all over their room.
In the house. It's and we clean their room morning and night, and it's still because he's so sensitive. A small one piece of dust can set him off, so it's very hard to keep that at bay. But
so it's nice. It's nice keeping him out. But no, I mean free flight in general, I think it's literally the best way to keep a bird. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's amazing. But there are those risks that your bird could get spooked and take off. I mean, our guys do, but they're always going to stay close
unless there's a seagull chase.
But I can honestly say I know and I know way more birds that have been injured or cause of death in the house from inside activities, whether it's eating avocado or not a scented candle, but I know birds that have died from Teflon poisoning from pans, birds that have been attacked by other people's animals in their house, just crazy freak accidents all through the house. And I know more of them. That's because obviously I probably know more birds that don't free fly, but I do know more of them that have had accidents than any actual free flight accidents.
That's true. Actually, that's very true.
So say Mikey decides that he's going to go and spend the night outside. Are you guys going home or are you camping underneath the tree?
Well, here's the thing: everyone's like, "Oh, I'd be so worried." The first time, the second time,
over it after a while.
you can't. You're so worried. Like Claire's in tears. We're up all night. We can't sleep. Now it's like
we're like, "Oh, here we go again."
I think we forget that these birds, they're not domesticated at all. They are wild birds. Like these birds right now are in the wild. It's not like a poodle. You don't go to the wild and find a poodle. Yeah. These poodles are bred for humans.
They're built to be outside.
These birds still, when they're in a tree, that's where they are calm and that's where they belong. And because our guys are so used to it, Mikey will happily sleep in a tree and
happily.
He'll chill
and then
out.
When he's ready, he'll go. But this is the thing. If it's the summer, I mean, to be fair, he doesn't have too many tree sleeps now, but I don't mind. Because we really only fly quite locally to our house, and there's beautiful countryside everywhere, and it's very safe. And I don't mind him being there.
Whereabouts roughly in the world are you guys? Just for people that are listening.
So we are in Harlington, in Bedfordshire, just a tiny little village, and just on the safe side of things, the biggest risk, because everyone's like, what if something happens? Birds don't move in the middle of the night. They'll only move once the sun comes up. Now, he's not going to go just wake up and just start flying around. He'll wait for us to come and get him. So we usually wake up at sunrise. The only reason we do that, though, because the biggest risk to them in that situation would be a dodgy human. Someone who's coming, oh, wow, look at that. Let's go catch it. And then they take it and put it on eBay. Not like that.
I know what you mean, unfortunately.
That's more of a risk than a dog. I mean, if he's up a tree, a dog can't get him. The birds of prey around that area, we just have red kites, a few buzzards. They're not going to attempt to take down a bird like that. No. There's no other risk apart from a human being in that sense. With free flight in general, he's been taken a few times. He flew to a house party once. flew down to a barbecue and they decided to feed him a whole bunch of grapes and strawberries and put him in the garage and decided to keep him.
Yeah, he had the best.
We heard about this the next day, and then another time we were at a park flying, and he was just on a bench. He was out of sight. Someone thought he was lost, so put him in a dog crate and started walking him out when we saw him. So he's a very friendly bird, and that's a big thing with free flight. You never want to. He's a lot better now. Yeah, he's so much better now. You never want to over socialize your bird. Mia is perfect. Anyone goes near her, she's going to try and draw blood
or
instantly.
You will lose a finger immediately. For us, I mean, it's good because it means that. Yeah, she will never get stolen because no one will until those.
No one wants to steal Mia. They'll give her away pretty quickly.
I can't handle it. Get her.
So when you're free flying them, do they have obviously like my dogs have dog collars, and so if they unfortunately lose one and someone finds them, they can get in contact with me.
Yeah.
Do the parrots have like a chip or like a ring or anything on their legs or if you were they're gone?
Both chips, yes.
Yeah. So you'd have to take them to the vet. And the vet would have to scan them, and then that would come back straight to us.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know how easy it would be for. Yeah, I think I don't know. Like
We've
a lot of
people, very lucky.
You'd have to know how to hold them without getting bitten. You'd have to know how to.
It'd be hard to take a bird,
get them in out of cars to a vet, without freaking out a bit. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Cool. So, what would if someone's listening today that is keeping birds and wants to start free flying, where would you point them in the direction of to get some experience, or possibly is it an idea to maybe have a mentor or find a friend that already free flies? How would you go about it if you were to start from fresh?
So there is free flies all over the world. And there's actually a Facebook page called Parrot Free Flight International with a map of the flyers all over the world, which is really, really cool. We usually link up. So
is it a large community as well?
Sorry?
Is it quite a large community of free flyers? Or?
Yeah. I mean, when you say large, I mean, there's in this country, I'd say there's probably about 60 or 70 people that free fly.
Okay, that's more than I thought there would be.
Yeah.
It's grown over the years.
It is growing.
It has grown massively.
And there's probably more that I don't know as well. You know, a whole bunch more. So there's probably over 100. But always, never, ever watch a YouTube video and learn off that, because whatever's on YouTube, you know, the amount of steps we would have skipped or anyone would have skipped. Every bird's different. Always find an experienced mentor. And when I say experienced mentor, someone who's flown at least 2 birds, 3 preferably, because you know a lot of people can nail it once, especially if it's a baby. Anyone can free fly a baby bird, but when it comes to an older bird or you know a bird that's rehomed or anything like that, there's a whole lot more that does come into play. There are professional trainers all over the world that do help, and a lot of them do Skype courses, so they'll run you through maybe 20 or so hours worth of knowledge and give you a whole bunch of stuff. And if you do follow those steps perfectly, then you'll
that's the thing, every bird is different. So
we started working with a trainer, Carly, actually, who is working with us with the dry mix business as well. So she's been running free flight courses on the website, and she does behavior courses and diet courses and all this kind of stuff as well. So if you're out there, mikey.co.uk/courses.
No, brilliant.
Cool.
So you've mentioned it a few times today. So I definitely want to go into it now. Your I don't know, is it your bird food or your seed mix or what are we calling it? What is it, and why is it better than just what you can go and buy in a pet shop?
I feel like I've answered all the questions. Do you want to cover them? I can do it.
So
basically, through I think years and years of having Mikey, we fed raw for a long time, you know, just a whole bunch of
started off just us trying to get the best diet for him.
We did a lot of fruit and veg in the morning, fruit and veg in the evening, and then we tried pellets for a little while, which is just highly processed food. And
not all pellets. Tops is okay, but our guys just didn't eat tops,
and it just didn't seem natural in a way. You know, like these birds are flying around in the wild right now. Again, you know, it's not like a poodle. They're literally living. They're eating raw fruit and veg and herbs and flowers daily. And we're like, why don't we try and replicate that? So we had chats, you know, with Dr. Jason Crean in the US. We did a whole bunch of research. We started looking into this, and it just seemed way more natural to feed a huge variety of raw whole food. But you can't offer, you know, wet, fresh chops. So we started looking into, you know, freeze-dried fruit and vegetables, edible flowers, herbs, spices, seeds.
And a lot of it is like the reason we did this as well is that we wanted to create a foraging tray as well. So it's like loads of nutrition, loads of health benefits, but
which is stimulating.
It's fun and it's stimulating for them to enjoy all these rather than just pellet after pellet after pellet.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have a variety of food. If I was to eat the same bland looking thing every day, it'd be soul destroying, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
it's exactly that.
Yeah,
so we started feeding our guys, and then everyone on our socials like, what is that? What is that? What is that?
Sell it.
Can you make it? And then we used to just send recipes out to people, and they're like, it doesn't look like yours, doesn't look like yours, because it is a whole. It's each item of food has a percentage of what goes in. Now we have recipes for each individual product down to the gram basically to get it to what it is. And we just launched the Mikey dry mix, which was I think 51 ingredients, which was a pretty even blend of everything. And it went nuts. Everyone wanted it. And then we made more, and then everyone wanted a whole bunch of different stuff. So we had like a low fruit mix, then got into sprouting.
People asked us to make certain things. They were like, "Can you do this? Can you?" We were like,
and
"Okay."
Now I think we got
we shall
14 or 15 different products in multiple sizes and stock toys, and it's honestly been a crazy amount of work.
So much more work than we've ever done.
Way more work than I'd ever expect ever. And
but it's for the benefit of the sweet birds.
But it's amazing if you just look through our Trustpilot reviews, people like my birds are calmer, they're more well behaved. They look better.
So many differences.
Like people are actually, it's not just two influences as such, just basically
that's what we've been
starting to profit off fans or anything like that. We
genuinely care about what we're doing.
It's actually making a difference, which is really really cool. If it was crap, we'd just not sell it.
Well, and the reviews would say it. They'd be pretty clear if it was crap as well. To be fair, I have to say, from following you guys on Instagram for a long time, I do like. It's very clear that you're not influencers that are trying to profit off the birds. It's very clear that your birds are the main priority, and everything else is just a bonus. Like it happens, which is really nice to see. Because I try and keep my Instagram quite varied. That way, I can have different guests from different areas, like in the future on the podcast and stuff. But sometimes you see people that it's quite clear that their main goal isn't the welfare of the animal. Not that they're neglecting the animal, but it's not their main priority, if you know what I mean. And it's very clear from your guys that Mikey and Mia are ultimate priority. If you had to drop everything else, you'd drop it in a heartbeat, and Mikey and Mia would be there.
We've stopped making YouTube videos, which is such a shame. Not because we wanted to, but because we're just so busy.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Actually, like your YouTube was quite popular, or I don't know if it is or was popular, and you were uploading quite regularly, and it seems to have completely stopped. So is that?
I mean, we haven't
permanent stop, or
we haven't. So we were so dedicated to it a few years back, maybe 3 or 4 years. That was we'd wake up. What should we vlog today? What should we do today? I can't wait to shoot this. Can't wait to edit that. We had so much energy and so much passion for it. And then I think it got to a point where, like, if we throw a big bird party and you vlog the whole day, you're literally the whole day you're just making sure things are in focus, you're getting the shots, and you're entertaining guests plus the camera, and then you end up missing the whole day in a way.
Although you've been behind the camera for the whole thing, you feel like you weren't actually part of the event.
In a way. And I think it was also quite exhausting, being so full of energy. And I don't want to say we're not doing YouTube at all anymore, because I absolutely love it.
Yeah, same.
I'm grateful for everything we got from it. But I wanted to push more to the educational side, because a lot of people used to watch these videos. Some of them, 5, 6, 7 of them are in the millions of views, and they're all like, the comments, I'm getting a bird, oh, this looks like so much fun. And I hated the fact that we're out there, just showing a bunch of good times, and people are like, oh, I'm going to go do this tomorrow. And then because of that, the rehoming gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So now
we were contributing to it.
The last 5 or 6 videos I've done now, I've said, this is not a fun thing to do. These birds are not toys. It's a serious commitment. They get rehomed every day because
we're watch really this and see trying to be more educational and purposely educational now.
We still slam the old shorts up now and then. But even last week, I was like, should we just vlog today? We haven't put a video out in like 2 or 3 months. We should. And then something came up, and I don't know. We're out of town. We're in Manchester right now. Actually, we're out of town. No, we're in Huddersfield. We're close sisters. So we're out of town a lot. We got the bird sitters with Mikey and Mia. So.
And I miss them, honestly, the second we leave.
I do miss creating content, because it was something I was so passionate about at once, and I hate the fact that I don't have that strong passion now. But I'll get into it.
So it's not an end. It's just a pause.
It
may come back in the future.
We've never been amazing uploaders,
No, we're very bad.
we did our best to do every 3 to 4 weeks, and that's pretty. So
to be fair, it's difficult as well to come up with content because normally you're living the same day over and over. And don't get me wrong, like a little bit thing will change with a bird here or a little, but if you're trying to upload like once a week, like there's only so much that happens in a week.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's also one of those things where sometimes it's if I didn't have the birds, it'd be so much easier. But when you're trying to vlog with birds,
or when like I'm filming, Mia will just climb all over me, and it's so difficult to like.
And then things never go to plan. But,
they say you should never work with children or animals, don't they?
Yeah. So. A vlog is a real challenge, but it's really fun. We do enjoy it. We will get back into it.
Yeah. So you mentioned there that right at the beginning, you said you wouldn't get another bird, and you mentioned there as well that birds aren't fun. Obviously, Mike and Mia are staying forever. If somebody was interested in getting a bird, not specifically a parrot, but a bird, say you go into your average pet shop and they've got your canaries, your budgies, and then they might have an African grey or a macaw or something along those lines. What would you, if someone came up to you and said, "I want to get a bird, help"? What would you say? Would you advise them to go for it? Obviously, giving them education. Would you say don't do it? Obviously, people have got to do their research. So, if I was a complete beginner and said, "I really want to get a bird," what would your answer be?
And we get this a lot. I always firstly say rehome over buying a baby. Always rehome, because no matter what bird you want, someone is giving that bird up somewhere. Like the amount, I think we've had 6 or 7 messages in the last 12 to 18 months, I'd say. People saying, "I can't look after my bird the way you guys do. Can you take my bird?" And we'll never take another. We've managed to rehome, I think, 4 or 5 of them. Yeah. One last week, 2 months ago. And we've managed to find homes within our free flight community for all these birds that are going to give them up. So I'll always firstly suggest, I'll see how serious they are. Can you afford, firstly, a couple of grand for a bird, a couple of grand for the first month alone with Avery's purchase, the whole lot,
make a whole
and then 2 to 3 grand every single year for the next 60 years. That's adding up to about 250K over their lifetime. Is that what you want to invest into this? Secondly, they are allowed. Do you have any plans to travel? Like, age is a big thing. I would never recommend an 18, 19-year-old to go out and do this and lock themselves down forever. You should go out, live your life, travel, explore. How are you going to get a flat with a huge giant macaw? Or, smaller birds are a little bit easier. I'll never say don't. I'll say don't do it as a joke, but I don't know everyone's situation.
Do as much research as you can. Maybe if you know anyone with a bird, go and spend time with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Like go and spend, because we had a friend back in London.
He was like, story.
I really want to get a bird. I really want a macaw. And so we were like, okay, why don't you look after our 2 while we go to New Zealand? And then he did, and he said
he did 16 days with 2 of them.
He was like, I will never get a bird.
He's like, I'll never do that.
Never. Yeah. Like, there's no way. I don't want a bird. I'm done. It was a phase. I'm over it.
Most of these birds get rehomed after a year or 2. Some within a month. Like just
months. Yeah. And that's when they're babies, and they're not even they haven't even developed big characters yet.
And here's a really big call I'm going to make, which is not going to be liked, but it's these birds, like in pets in general, like I'm trying to say this in a nice way. Like, I think it's humans were like, oh, once upon a time, many years ago, oh, look at that.
I want it.
I want that. I'm gonna go steal that baby, and I'm going to take it.
Live with me.
Like, what other species in the world, out of the millions of animals, looks at another animal and be like, oh, I'm going to go steal their baby and make it mine and care for it. Like, it's such a weird concept if you think about it like that. Like, they don't think, what are we up to? So I mean, and macaws especially, they're a lot harder than I think a lot of other pets when it comes to So when people get angry at their birds, I'm like, you literally, this isn't meant to live in your house. This isn't meant to be here right now. What have we done, kind of thing. All these birds are getting rehomed and locked in cages and dying and have diseases and are plucking because of what we've done. If everyone left these animals where they should
just
be,
leave them.
Everyone would have just been happy.
No, I get that completely. And obviously, again, you mentioned adopt, don't shop. So obviously, you've got Mikey and Mia. They are male and female. I'm pretty 100% sure that you have no plans to breed them in the future. But do they breed? Do they produce eggs? And if they do, I presume you just dispose of them, or is it something you can stop them doing?
They tried to nest last year. they built a nest in Claire's bathroom. Luckily, we have 3 in the house, but they built a nest right under the sink. Dragged a bunch of cardboard bits.
That's where they decided the nest
towels,
would be.
And then they just started.
We even tried to build them a nest in their room, and they didn't want it. They just want the bathroom. It's so annoying.
First, we discouraged it, and we took everything out for months. And then they got really angry and really frustrated and very, very loud.
It's a big debate whether you should let them or not.
Whatever. Let's just see how nature plays its course. They made love every night. Well, not every night, but they did.
Pretty much every day.
And then, but
they were just so angry that
we didn't want them. We didn't want them sleeping in there, so we took them out and put them in the aviary. And maybe that's why she didn't lay, because she couldn't be with the eggs.
24/7.
If an egg ever did come out and it was fertilized, I think the smartest thing to do would just be to destroy it,
or just replace it with a dummy egg, so they eventually lose interest. But I've noticed that Mikey's definitely calmer since we let him nest. It's weird. And now he's nesting and Mia's not even interested.
Yeah, Mia doesn't care this year.
She's like, I'm not interested.
Okay. I don't think it'll be smart to bring more babies into this world where there is,
I completely understand that.
There's breeders out here that are just pushing out 300 babies a year. Who knows where they're going? A bunch of them are getting really, really sick. We hear all of these stories. Because if you're pushing out that many,
very sick.
They're getting sick. They're having a lot of diseases. They're having plucking problems, and what is going on? And if you breed, because the thing is, with macaws, here's something quite funny, and I think it's natural selection with most animals as well. Yeah. So, in the wild, if the macaw lays 3 or 4 eggs, that they won't be able to. If there's not enough food to supply all those 4 chicks, they'll pick the weakest or the weakest 2 and throw them out of the nest.
It's so brutal, but it is that's nature selection.
That's nature. And because each one of those eggs, each one of those birds aren't going to be the strongest. There'll be one weak runt.
Yeah.
Now, in what we're doing here in captivity, we're making sure every single one of these weak birds lives, because it's an extra $3,500 for the breeder, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then when that weak bird and another weak bird, they breed, then you're getting an even weaker.
Yeah, just creating genetically.
So they're getting worse and worse and worse. Yeah. So a lot of birds I know, and we make a joke with our friend who has a bird named Shelby, who we work alongside, and she's this tiny little runt bird. She's amazing. She's filled with energy. But we always say, if you're in the wild, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
You would have been thrown out of the nest.
I say that with quite a lot of my snakes. There's quite a few. So I predominantly keep royal pythons, and they tend to just sit in a circle, and they're nicknamed pet rocks. They don't do anything, and I quite often look at them, or I'm feeding them, and just think, how is it possible that you guys survive in the wild? It doesn't make sense sometimes.
Have you ever had anything bad happen to you with these snakes?
No, never. I was bitten by one of them once, and occasionally when I'm breeding, the babies are a bit nippy, but they only get to 4.5, 5 foot long. And to be honest, they are like the puppy dogs of the snake world. I've had a few other species of snakes in the past that are a bit more active or bitey, and it's not really my sort of thing. So I'm quite happy with the pet rocks. Like I said, it's like fish. I quite like looking at them, and I don't need to interact with them that often.
So just let them do their own thing. That's what they
exactly want. We've got the chameleon behind us, so we're in the living room at the moment. So there's a chameleon here. There's 2 tortoises in there.
He wouldn't let me.
The chameleon, he's cool. He hates being held, but he'll sit right at the top, right in view all day, every day, and he's more than happy.
Really?
So it works well. Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, how many pets do you have?
I have got 17 royal pythons.
Whoa.
17.
Yeah. 3 crested geckos, 3 leopard geckos, 3 dogs, 2 tortoises, and a chameleon. I think that's it.
Feeding routine. That's crazy.
Well, the snakes are fine. The snakes get fed once every probably 7 to 10 days. And then the tortoises eat weeds, so they are completely everything from the garden every day. You just go out and pick it first thing in the morning.
Oh no!
And then the lizards get fed every other day. It's pretty straightforward, to be honest. The dogs are the most work out of everything.
Yeah.
So we've been going for 54 minutes. I want to start heading towards the end of the podcast. There is something I wanted to add. I mentioned it earlier. It's just popped back into my head. You mentioned risks. What are the risks of avian flu? Because obviously, there's a lot of things going on about it at the moment that I keep hearing about. So how do you manage that? Is it something that can affect the parrots? And what's the sort of process, so to speak, to keep them safe?
With avian flu, so there are rules that get put in place all through the UK when avian flu's around. All birds basically have to be on side and can't go outside. The things like I'm pretty sure
changed, I think.
you know, so free flyers are allowed outside for 1 hour a day.
Yeah.
Just for that bird's well-being, similar to how a falconer can still fly for that, you know. And is it pigeons? Not pigeons. There's something else who's still allowed out for a certain amount of time. Now, what we do is we tend to not fly anywhere too muddy, which is hard throughout the winter. We don't let them, not that we can control them, but we try minimize any time in trees or any surfaces with wild bird poo. So it's the only way they can kind of really contract it is through wild bird poo or dander, which, you know, it flies through the air kind of thing. But you know, if they're in too close contact, the risks are very, very small. Obviously it is still a risk there, but it's also, you know, we can't live our lives being completely boxed up forever. You know, it's just one of those things. And I know when they did say we're allowed 1 hour flight a day, everyone was just over the moon because I don't know what we would have done.
Community actually
got
that done, which was amazing.
I can't remember who it was, but they actually emailed.
Konya, I remember him, but I don't remember his name.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he's the one. So this emailed, guy was on a mission to get these birds out for 1 hour.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
These aren't just your normal cage birds. These birds need to fly, otherwise they're just because if our guys don't fly for 3 days due to weather,
we'll get
they are not to that extent. They're at the window screaming and doing laps of the lounge, and they're just not settled, and it's not nice to see. So. Yeah.
No, fair enough. Right, so we'll start wrapping up. So, are there any shout outs that you'd like to give to anyone in the community at all? Really, is there anyone who comes? If there's not, it doesn't matter, or if there's too many, it also doesn't matter. But this is your opportunity to give people shout outs if you'd like to.
I don't know.
Everyone that follows us, I guess.
Yeah. To the fans, to anyone who's rehomed a bird.
Anyone? Oh, Bobby and Lady.
Oh yeah, they're cool. What up, Shelby? Obviously, Shelby, Tom, Loki. I don't know. They'll if I start rattling off, this will go for an extra hour. So
you don't want to miss anyone out either, because then that opens a whole new can of worms. So I like to finish off the podcast section with a guest with something I call the Hall of Shame and the Hall of Fame. It normally works for reptiles, and I'm hoping it can work for the parrots. I'm not 100% sure, but we're just going to give it a go. So the concept is it's a bit like Room 101. So if for today, it's a new bird keeper. They're walking into the Hall of Shame and then the Hall of Fame. These are two like trophy, like almost like a museum. And as they walk through, they do the Hall of Shame first, and in the Hall of Shame is something that every guest has put in there that they recommend that people never have to use. So, for example, with the reptiles, one of my guests put in red bulbs because red bulbs are detrimental to the eyes of the animal. It used to be thought that they can't see the light, so you can still see them, but it's all a load of rubbish. So, yeah, that's the concept. And then the Hall of Fame is the same thing, but it's something that you recommend everybody does use.
Okay, cool.
Right? So, so we'll walk through the Hall of Shame first. What would you both add to the Hall of Shame so that bird keepers in the future never have to deal with this specific thing? It can be an item, it can be advice, it can be anything bird related.
One thing that I think is always missed, and you always hear about it, but no one really talks about it: cheap bird toys. Avoid them, avoid them, avoid them.
Yeah.
They are made with really cheap metals. We've had horror stories about birds breaking off and lead poisoning.
Stay away from AliExpress.
Just stay away from cheap bird toys. That's the one thing.
There'd be a whole bunch of avocados there as well.
Yeah, don't go near avocados.
Teflon pans, Teflon hair dryers, scented candles. Galvanized metals. What else? The list is so big. My head's just...
Okay, that's plenty. That's more than enough for people to go. There's a lot of things that I didn't know on there as well. Right, and then we're moving through the Hall of Shame into the Hall of Fame. So, what is something that you guys would say if you're a bird keeper or you want to get into birds? This is something you could this is a piece of advice we'd like to give you, or this is a product you should use. And we use it, or we've used it in the past. It's fantastic. And you can rate your own product as well if you would like to.
I think diet is heavily important.
But the number one thing I think the one thing we have bought, which I've never ever looked back, is the Secura cups. So they're these bowls, amazing. Yeah. And they lock into the bowl holder. For years before we had them, every bird throws their bowl. They literally pick it up and they throw it. And last thing you want is food everywhere and water everywhere. These things. And I know they don't work for all macaws because we've had macaw owners being like, my bird's can still throw them, but they have never failed our guys. Best invention ever.
They're amazing.
Yeah, I swear by them.
What were they called one more time? Sorry.
Secura cups or
Right.
Secura bowls. Yeah.
Yep. Fantastic.
Yeah.
On top of that, foraging toys. And,
foraging toys.
Always go for an aviary over a cage, because if you buy a cage, you're going to throw it away and upgrade to an aviary later.
Yeah.
So
that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Right. So before we say goodbye, this is now your chance to plug your socials. So Instagram, bird food. Where can people find you?
If you guys want to see bird education, free flying fun videos, and all that kind of stuff, we are Mikey Mikey underscore the Macaw on Insta, Mikey the Macaw and Friends on YouTube, Mikey and Mia on TikTok, Mikey and Mia official on TikTok, and Mikey and Mia on Facebook. I think that's
fantastic. And if people wanted to purchase your bird food as well,
if you want to check out the dry mixes, we also have personalized videos and meet and greets, which we should actually start. I think we closed them for
just for the winter, and the flu.
Yeah, we're back up. We're going to start our meet and greets again. MikeyandMia.co.uk. So hopefully see you guys around.
Brilliant. Well, that is us for today then. So thank you very much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this, and we might have to do a round 2 in the future, because I've still got a million questions I want to ask you.
Sorry, I know we can talk a lot, can't we?
Yes.
No, it's fine. I could sit here and talk for ages, but I've got a daughter upstairs that wants to watch Eurovision, and she needs to have dinner before that. So we'll have to call it for today. But thank you very much for coming on. Like I said, all your links will be in the description below as well. But until next time, thank you very much.
Amazing.
It's a pleasure, buddy. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye. Cool. So that was I really enjoyed that. I have learned a lot, and there's a lot I now want to learn as well. So thanks again to Nimal and Claire. Like they said, it was at Mikey _ the Macaw on Instagram, and the rest of the links will be in the description below. Before we disappear, there's a few things I need to do. So the winner of the Exotic Keeper magazine from last episode is on screen now. It's DWC _ Royals, who left a comment on the YouTube saying the Patu Digu, or Digua, I'm not sure, is thought to be the smallest spider in the world at just 0.37 millimeters. So I did Google this because I thought, I didn't believe it, to be honest, but it is true. It is a tiny species of spider, and the male is the same size as 1/5 of a pinhead, roughly. So that is microscopic. So well done, DWC Royals. If you want to drop me a DM on Instagram, I will sort you out with your prize. If you guys want a chance to win and be announced in the next episode, all you need to do is drop a animal fact below in the comments on the YouTube video. This can be anything as simple as dogs have 4 legs to the most random animal fact that you know. It doesn't need to be anything specific, just needs to be about an animal. So before we disappear, if you want to keep up to date with me, you can follow me on Instagram at Ben's Balls, BENNSBALLS. If you want to keep up to date with the podcast, see upcoming guests and all that sort of stuff, the podcast also has an Instagram, which is at Reptichat. Again, all the links will be in the description below. If you want to support the podcast, please if you're on YouTube, give it a like, drop a comment below. Subscribe, click the notification bell, all that sort of stuff helps. If you're listening on any of the audio platforms, so that's Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, anywhere else that does podcasts, I'm on them all. If you could go and give me a review or a rating, that would be amazing. Spotify reviews are going quite well now. I think I got like a 4.5 5-star rating, which is really cool. If you wanted to support the podcast a little bit more, because it's not the cheapest thing in the world to keep going, there is a link below to buy me a coffee, and that is where you can donate the cost of a coffee towards the podcast upkeep, and all the little donations are very, very appreciated. So yeah, that is the end of episode 7. You haven't got to wait very long. It's episode 8 is next weekend on Saturday, and we are... Or do I tell you who it is? No, I'm going to wait. If you want to know who it is, keep an eye on Instagram, and I will announce the guest on Wednesday. So, yeah, until next time, that is the rest. That is me. So, thank you very much. See you later. Bye-bye.